Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, crazy babies, to another episode of Jam Sessions with your host, yours truly, Joe Mycutt. I have a really great author on today. I hope you enjoy the interview, and be sure to stay tuned after the interview for a few great book recommendations. Without further ado, I'm going to scooch along off stage and bring on our next author. Hello, hello, hello. What's up, crazy babies? Welcome back to another episode of Jam Sessions. Today with me, I have a really cool guest. We've got Rick Powell, the author of the book, A Vault of Whispers. He's here with us on that wonderful movie set. He's got a lot of cool memorabilia back there. That's really awesome. How you doing today, Rick? Welcome.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me on. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. I was just saying how jealous I was of your backdrop there. That is such a cool collection. So we are here to get to know a little bit about you and to learn about your book, A Vault of Whispers, which is available on Lulu.com and Amazon.com. So let's get right into it. Tell us about the book, and in your words as the author, what is it about? What's the premise?
Basically, the premise is it's a collection of 6 short stories that I wrote years ago. I got into one little collection. It's mostly a lot of vibe of Twilight Zone or some of the old 70s short story collections you used to get back in the day. I was inspired by this book by Scholastic Book Fair when I was a kid. There was one called Strangely Enough that had a whole bunch of weird true to life Ripley's Believe It or Not stories and stuff, and that one stuck with me my whole life. And basically this was basically a little bit of the premise for this book. There's some subliminal horror, some real life horror, some Lovecraft pastiche and stuff in there. It's a whole conglomeration of a few things in that book, so there's a little bit for everyone in this. So,
Okay.
it was great writing it, and it was fun with some of the illustrations I got through some friends and Facebook friends that were more than happy to help me out with that.
Okay, so we've got some imagery in the book as well as some great stories.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's given me the vibe. I've not had the opportunity to read it yet, but I love learning about these new books so that I can increase my library and know what I'm out looking for. It sounds like almost like an adult R.L. Stine, and like even back in the day when they had the late night, when there wasn't TV, and they had the late night radio shows, and they would always sign off with those spooky stories or whatever that was, everybody would sit around the radio in their living room. So very cool. I like that vibe. Now, what do you hope readers get from reading your book? What do you hope is their experience?
Hopefully that you just enjoy it, pass it on. Hopefully to get a few chills out of it. Hopefully to get a little bit of awe and wonder out of it, like I did writing it. Good thing about it is, like, there's a whole bunch. It's not just all one theme in that book. It's one psychological horror, one that's supernatural horror, just a little bit for everybody to get something out of it. And hopefully it'll be something someone could read like in a dark and stormy night with a nice hot cup of tea, and just maybe hopefully it'll influence someone to write some stories themselves. So just be passing it on one way or another.
Yeah, that's very cool. And I love that you touched on different genres of horror, because, there are different fans of horror. People like psychological thrillers. People are spooked by the supernatural. Some people are all about the gore and the blood and guts and the jump scares. So that's really cool that you're offering the reader a variety of different types of horror and short stories or thrillers of such.
Yeah.
Very cool. Now, what inspired the cover art? What's the story behind that? I know, I believe it's the face of a lady laying is there.
Well, it's the cover art is from there's an artist from Canada, Jeanne Mazalim. I knew her through Facebook, and I went through her website, and this is one of her paintings, and I reached out to her. I says, "Hey, I'm writing a book of short stories. This is a book that'll maybe keep someone up late at night or reading in the dark. and this cover was basically would fit that theme. And she was more than gracious and more than happy enough to have me use her artwork. So, and I think it fits pretty well with the theme of the book. So,
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's very beautiful. It has it leaves the viewer open to interpretation. You know, you can't tell, is she hiding? Is that a shot where she's hiding under the bed, staying quiet with terror in her look, in her eyes? Is she deceased? Is she resting? And the color of it, it's very the temperature. It has a cool, spooky temperature to it. That the color really translates that vibe of almost having a cold, bone chilling feel to it. So I think you chose perfectly, and I think the artist did a wonderful job.
Yeah, she does fantastic work, and you know, I'm hopefully when this video and everything gets all settled and stuff and gets on YouTube and everything, I'll probably post it with some of her links to her Facebook and
oh yes,
her website, because she's a wonderful woman, gracious, very polite, and she's her imagination with her paintings is phenomenal.
yes. From that piece of work, I can tell she's very talented. And please do. There may be viewers who want to reach out to her or see more of her work, and that's what this platform is all about: is cross networking and promoting us. Promoting us little guys who's trying to get our work out there and be seen. So please do that. Now, what from the experience of writing this book, A Vault of Whispers, what was maybe one of the pieces you felt is the most impactful, maybe that the readers may be most impacted by?
Well, the ones that I got the most responses for was the one in there called True Nature. It's a weird take on the werewolf genre, and it was really a lot of fun to write that one. And the artwork preceding that one is from a friend of mine called John Souter. He also did the artwork for my children's book I put out a few years ago, George the Holiday Spider. And his artwork captures basically the feel of the whole story. And it's not a very long story, but it's fast paced, and it's has a little bit of a twist in there. And I get a lot of good responses from that one. Yeah, that was a fun one to write.
Okay, and that's called True Nature.
True Nature, yeah.
Okay, so definitely any of the readers need to be on the lookout for that one. If they, go purchase the book, check that one out. I'm excited because, for one, it's a werewolf story. I mean, who doesn't love a werewolf story? And I love the title. It's intriguing, True Nature. Combined with the fact that there's a twist in there, it makes me wonder what sort of human attribute that you touch on. Maybe there's something there. So that sounds awesome. You mentioned your children's book, George the Curious Spider. Is that
George the Holiday Spider? Yeah,
George.
That was a couple years ago. A couple of my Facebook friends saw George behind me.
Yes.
And after I adopted him, you might say, and they says, "Hey, Rick, why don't you write a book about him?" And they planted the seed in my mind, and it took about 4 years to write that children's book because I was getting the artwork from John and back and forth, and of course the pandemic hit and everything else, and of course life happened, and that's one I could probably talk about sometime in the future. But that was a fun one to write too. It was a labor of love most.
Yeah, that's really cool, and I love when you can take the creepy or the dark and do something like write a children's book with it. And really, people may find that intriguing or rare, but honestly, I mean, when it comes to children's books and children's nursery rhymes and things, there's always has been this undertone of darkness there. So I think it's really cool that you're a horror writer, and then also you have a children's book. So awesome stuff. Now, what's on the burner for Rick? What do your fans maybe have to look forward to? Do you have anything going on right now? Any projects going on?
Well, I have a couple of things on the back burner. Those are short story I've been working on for a while now, and of course I've been working on a novel for like the longest time. And I know I'm gonna be putting out my other short story collection. Got that going out there, trying to see where I could get some bits and pieces and get that going. So yeah, I have lot of things in the back burner. Just just trying to keep creative with everything going on nowadays. So it's a lot going on. So
Absolutely. And I actually have the pleasure of working with you on a project that I'm currently editing and putting through the production process. You can mention that.
yeah, I wasn't sure if I should mention.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can mention that one if you'd like, and I can definitely tell everybody that there's some really cool stuff in there. I've really enjoyed reading the stories as I'm going through and editing them. So yeah, you can give a little teaser about that.
Yeah, and it's Black Zones of Shadow, and it's a companion piece to A Vault of Whispers. Basically, it's another collection of the short stories, and they range from like subliminal to more extreme, but not very, very extreme, but extreme to in safety margin. So all my other extreme stuff I published years ago through a magazine called Infernal Ink Magazine, which is a lot of erotic horror. I delved into that for a long time, and that's basically how I got started out with writing, with some of that along with my poetry. And that's a lot of fun to write, and it's a genre that's not really touched upon too much, erotic horror, but it's a fun genre. It's been on and off. There's been collections through the years in the 80s and 90s. There was a collection called Hot Blood, which was erotic horror that started throwing some things out there. And my friend Hydra M. Star had a magazine called Infernal Ink Magazine, and I submitted a story back then, and she was the first publisher to take my first story, and it was a erotic horror story, and that started me. That was a launching pad for everything for me, just going right into the stratosphere of my writing. So
yeah, well, I can tell you, if A Vault of Whispers has some similarities to, as far as your writing style, to the one I'm working on for you now, I can tell the viewers and anybody who is going to grab your book and read it, I really love the way that you address some of the uglier sides of the human condition. They're part of the horror of some of the things I've read that you've written. Part of the horror is just in the facing yourself as the human who is capable of doing some of the things that they've done in these stories, and realizing that that we, there's a fine line that you skirt whenever you tell a story, something horrific of human nature, and you skirt the line of glorifying it, which you're not really doing, but putting it out there in a real way, like this happens, humans do this, and we're lying to ourselves if we've never had that thought, or and the way that you process it through a creative story is really, it really does touch that, it skirts that level of comfortability, and I like that. I think that's really a great aspect to your horror writing.
Yeah, one thing, one of my favorite writers is Robert Bloch, who wrote Psycho, and one of the he's always was the one that wrote that horror and humor are two sides of the same coin. And one time he said the darkest part in the world is inside the human skull.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, the monsters are basically the humans, when you look right down to it. So.
Oh, absolutely. I told a friend yesterday, in fact, we were talking about the concept of God and the devil, and having a savior versus having something to blame. And one of the things I'd said to him is, one of the greatest and most difficult realizations that a human will have is coming into the immediate and intense understanding that, one, you are your own savior. There is nothing coming to save you. And B, that the greatest, most darkest, most difficult thing in the world you could imagine ever happening, you're capable of doing it. So and that's hard for us to swallow. That's a hard pill to swallow, to look in the mirror and say the greatest good or the greatest evil that could be committed lies within my own mind. And I really like how you have people face that in some of these stories. It was really cool experience, and it was uncomfortable, but in a way that was pleasurable, kind of like the way that you ride a roller coaster for the thrill, or that you go to the movies to see a scary movie to be jump scared. So I like that. Now, one new question that I've been getting into asking, that I wish I'd have been asking all along, is any advice that you might have for any aspiring authors or even aspiring creative minds of any kind. Any advice on the process?
Write for yourself first. You got to make sure it stays fun. You got to make sure you want to write what you want to read. If you're writing, or even if you're painting, music, whatever your palette is for whatever you do, if it's more of a chore and it's more of a hassle, you're doing it wrong. You know, don't force yourself. A lot of people in the past, they say, I'm not knocking it down. You know, a lot of people say, you know, I want to write 10,000 words. I want to write 500 words a day. I want to write this many words a day. That's great if you reach that goal. But if you're doing it where you're just going to be doing it just as a hassle just to reach it, but you lose your creativity and you lose the fun, it'll show up in your work no matter what you do. You know, I mean, there's times I could sit down, I could write like 300 words in a day, and there's sometimes I could sit down and write like 2 sentences.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you know, don't force it. You know, just let the muse talk to you. You know, don't shake the muse and say, hey, what's going on? So,
Right.
a lot of people say, I want to write for the money. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of, gotta remember, there's only like a very small percentage that hit it. Don't do it for the money, because if you're doing it for the money, you're going to be very disappointed, especially when it comes to right now with writing and publishing, because you know as well as I do, you know, publishing is tough. I mean, I collect refusal notices all the time. You know, rejection. Hey, I got another rejection. I take it as a good thing.
Right.
Because, hey, I got rejected. Hey, I'll just go somewhere else.
Right.
You know, I mean, a lot of people, you know, sometimes they reject my stuff saying, hey, you're missing this, you're doing this. I'd rather have honest critique than just someone say, hey, this is fantastic and everything else, but, you know, it's not part of my level. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
because, you know, I'm grown as a writer. I'm 59 years old, you know, and I'm still writing. You know, I mean,
Right.
you know, I'm gonna be doing this regardless. You know, and you know, if you do it for yourself and you're pleasant and you're happy with it, then you've done it. And if some people read my stuff and say, hey, this is really cool, I'm going to start writing, or you know, this is really cool. This is cool. I'm going to pass this book on. I've done my job. You know.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, you know, I agree with you, and I was even guilty of that myself. I many times in my writing process, I would get caught up in when I was writing it, I would get caught up in thinking, how is this going to be perceived? How can I write this so that it's more popular? Or something along those lines. And then I would forget that I was writing a story that needed to be written authentically, because it was a real story. It was something that I was passionate about, and it can only be written authentically, regardless of expectations. So you're right. You have to write for yourself. And in doing so, your work will find its audience. The people that like what you like or can relate to what you've written, they will find it. So yeah, I think that's great advice. And
just write. That's what I tell people. Just write. I mean, people say I'm afraid to write something. I'm afraid of how it'll look. I said, well, if it's okay with you and it'll help you grow. I mean, it's one word at a time. One sentence at a time.
Right.
You know, I can give as much advice as possible. You can go through college courses, learn how to do it, but you got to do it from the heart.
Absolutely. Yep. It's just like with anything. People say, oh, I can't dance. I can't do this. And the truth of the matter is everybody can dance. Your style, what you mean is you're afraid that your version of dancing may be way to get someone else's and be considered lesser. And that's not the case. We're all capable of it, and we all have a unique style. So you're absolutely right. Put pen to paper and just dance.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I hope everybody goes and grabs a copy of A Vault of Whispers, either on Lulu or Amazon. Go ahead and grab that book, check it out, become a fan now, because he's got some great works coming out, including the project that we're working on, that I'm helping edit and representing as his agent, and hopefully getting over to the publisher soon to continue on its journey of publication. So you've got that to look forward to. So grab a Vault of Whispers now and get on the Rick Powell train. I'm excited to have had you today. Thank you so much for being with us. And until next time.
I just want to give a quick shout out to Martin Hoyle. He was the one that introduced you and I, and he's one of the hardest working poets and writers. He puts his heart into it every freaking day. And I just want to, hey Martin, you rock. Thank you so very much. And once again, GA Mausoleum. I'm going to put a link in there. My friend John Souder, who did some of the artwork for this book, probably put a link to his site and stuff. And thank you very much for all this. This was a great opportunity, and for everything you're doing for me.
Absolutely, and thank you for letting me be a part of it, and thank you for joining us there. And there will be more to come. And again, provide those links. I love that you shouted everybody out. You're right. Martin is a beast. Woo! He really kicks up the standard when it comes to writing. So it's great working with him also. And we definitely want those links for those other artists. And we'll have you back on when your next book comes out. And we'll do this.
Sounds great. Good to do.
Thank you so much. All right, crazy babies. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Jam Sessions with today's author. Be sure to check out their book and grab a copy. Also, check these great books out. My children's book called Beautiful Boy by Joseph Micah, available on Amazon.com. A great collection of poetry by Alicia Hodge, titled I May Be a Romantic, But I'm Not Hopeless, available on Amazon.com. Another great collection of poetry by Marie Dawn Moldovan, titled 20 Years of Winter, also available on Amazon.com. And last but not least, this is the first book, Vocus Animarum, in a series, a 7-book series titled Philly Der Bedlam. Again, this is the first book that is out and available, Vocus Animarum. It's also available on Amazon.com. Be sure to stay tuned. Right after this, I'm going to leave you with a teaser video about that series. The author not only directed and produced this video, but he also created the music that you'll hear in the background. Enjoy.